Hello and welcome to a series of podcasts from the creators of Widowed AF. I'm your host, Rosie Gilmoss, and this is What About the Children? I was widowed myself in 2018, very suddenly, and at the time I had 3 children. They were 7, 5 and 6 months old. Now, after the initial shock sort of began to fade, the burning question, my primary concern was, what about the kids? How am I going to stop this being something that has a huge detrimental impact on them, on their lives, on their outcomes? And I guess I just wanted a bit of reassurance that perhaps they might just be okay. And I guess the big question is, are these children more at risk of mental health problems? Are they more likely to have anxiety, PTSD? Are they more likely to have depression, even things like suicidal ideation? And sadly, the answer is yes, they are. But there is a huge amount that you can do to mitigate this. And I spoke to 4 people who had lost a parent young and how that had impacted on them. And they vary in age from 14 to, I won't disclose the age of the eldest, but to adult. And they've all got a completely different story, but each of them are doing all right. And I think sometimes we just need a little bit of hope when everything seems so horribly, horribly dark around us. And with the right support, these children can be okay. They can be better than okay. They can thrive. But so much of that is about getting them the right support in the early stages of talking about them, of letting them grieve in a way that is appropriate for them, not putting adult expectations onto a child. Because one thing I've learned in doing this is that children behave very strangely when they're grieving. They can appear not to care at all. They can get very angry. They can say that they wish that you had died rather than the person that has. They don't mean it. They don't mean any of it. But children's brains are different. They're not emotionally mature enough to process the enormity of what's happened in an adult fashion because they're not adults. So throughout this series of podcasts, you're going to hear, as I said, from 4 fantastic guests. And I know we all hate being called brave, but I think that they are. And actually, particularly the youngest guest, Otis, who is just 14. And I do, of course, have his mum's permission, and he has signed off on the episode. But I really wanted to give you a bit of insight into a young person who had lived through the thing that we fear happening to our kids the most. So please have a listen. Let me know what you think, and I'll hand over to my 4 fantastic guests. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you think someone else may benefit from this, please do share. We'd also really appreciate a quick review. It helps more people find the show. Thank you again, and see you next time on Widowed AF.